Okay, let's unpack this temporal throwdown. Today, we're diving deep into a clash of iconic powerhouses. Esdeath from Akame ga Kill versus Dio Brando from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Ooh, that's a good one. Two very different vibes.
Yeah.
But both with that time manipulation edge.
Exactly. Our focus is really going to be on their incredible time manipulation abilities. We've gathered a whole bunch of sources, the usual suspects, anime and manga wikis, some really lively forum discussions, character analyses.
Yeah, lots of different takes out there.
Right. So we're going to try and dissect the nature of their powers, how they work, their limits, and the big question, what happens if these two actually clash? Our mission is to really unravel these time-stopping mysteries.
And what's fascinating right off the bat, I think, is how two abilities that sound so similar, just stopping time, could actually have like fundamentally different mechanics behind them.
Totally. And that changes everything in a fight.
Absolutely. Implications are huge.
Okay, so let's size up our contenders. First up, Esdeath. Now, she's legendary, the Empire's strongest general in Akame ga Kill, sometimes called the Ice Queen.
And terrifyingly effective. A skilled fighter even without her special gear.
Oh, definitely. Even without her Tegu, that's Demon's Extract, the source of her ice powers, she's an elite combatant, leader of the Yaters too. And she has this intense fixation on Tatsumi.
Yeah, intense is one word for it. Obsessed might be another.
True. Now her Tegu, Demon's Extract, gives her these incredible ice powers. But the real kicker, her ultimate trump card, is Mahapadma, and she explicitly says it freezes time and space.
Which is a pretty bold claim. Freezing space, too. That suggests something really fundamental, like reality warping, not just stopping clocks.
Exactly. That phrasing puts it in a very specific, very powerful category. Then we have Dio Brando. What a character arc, right? It started out, low birth, but with just immense ambition in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, Driven doesn't even begin to cover it.
He uses the stone mask, becomes a vampire, gets all the vampire perks, super speed, strength. I mean, the guy throws a road roller.
Right. Classic Dio move. And the regeneration, the freezing touch.
Yeah, the vaporative freezing technique. And later, he becomes a stand user. He gets the world.
Which is, arguably, one of the most iconic stands in the series. And it's a main ability.
Yeah.
Stopping time. Seemingly everywhere, all at once.
Plus, you've got his personality, cunning, ruthless, that weird manipulative charisma he has, and, well, total megalomania.
Absolutely. You can't separate Dio the vampire or Dio the stand user from Dio the person. His ambition fuels everything. His evolution from just a physically powerful vampire to someone who controls time itself. It's a huge leap.
Okay, so let's drill down into Esdeath's time power, Mahapadma. How does it work? Well, activation seems instant, like she just thinks it, and boom.
Right. Visually, it's that classic trope, the world freezes over, everything stops moving. Except her.
She's the only one moving in that frozen moment. Looks straightforward enough.
Pretty standard visual shorthand for time stop powers in anime and manga. It's clear for the audience what's happening.
But here's where it gets murky. The actual nature of Mahapadma, it's kind of debated, looking at the sources.
Yeah, there are basically two camps.
First, you have Esdeath's own words, I frozen time and space, if you take that literally.
Then it's a true time-space stop,
Yeah.
operating on the same fundamental level as something like the world, which, sets up a potentially very interesting direct interaction if they both use their powers.
Right, but then there's this other interpretation that Mahapadma isn't actually stopping time, but simulating it. It's an ultra-powerful, maybe localized, kinetic freeze.
Exactly. The idea is she uses her insane ice powers to slow molecular motion down to, practically absolute zero. Everything looks frozen in time because nothing can move.
And the evidence for there's Akame. During their fight, Akame apparently sees it coming and manages to jump out of its range right as Esdeath activates it.
That's the sticking point for the true time stop theory, isn't it? If time itself is stopped instantly everywhere, or even in a large radius spreading instantly, how do you just jump out of the way?
You shouldn't be able to, right? Unless maybe the range is surprisingly small or it doesn't spread instantaneously, it raises questions.
It really does. And if it is a cold base effect, that also aligns with some sources suggesting people with high resistance to cold might withstand it. Which, again, doesn't make sense if time and space themselves are frozen.
Yeah, that feels contradictory. And this idea of a limited radius keeps cropping up because of Akame's escape.
Which would make it fundamentally different from the world, which seems to affect, well, the whole world, or at least a massive area, simultaneously. Akame escaping really hints that Mahapadma might be more contained.
Okay, let's park that ambiguity for a second and look at Dio, the world. Activation usually comes with that iconic shout, Zalarudo, Tokyo Tomare.
Can't forget the sound effects, the B-Woom or whatever it is. Though, importantly, he can activate it silently, too.
Good point. And the effect, time just stops. Completely. The whole world, or at least as far as anyone can tell. And Dio, he's fully aware, moving around, interacting with stuff.
Yeah, it's consistently shown as a true cessation of time's flow within the JoJo universe. Not time dilation, not freezing things in place with cold, just stop time. He moves, things he throws keep their momentum when time restarts. It follows its own established logic.
And crucially, we know from his fight with Jotaro that other stand users with similar time stop powers can also become conscious and eventually move within his stop time.
That's a key precedent. It establishes the rules for how these kinds of powers interact, at least within JoJo's world. It's not an automatic win if someone else has a similar trick.
So what about the downsides for Dio? The limitations?
Well, duration is the big one initially. Started at, what, maybe 5 seconds maximum?
Yeah, around there. But then after he interacted with Joseph Joestar...
Right, after he absorbed Joseph's blood, it jumped up to 9 seconds in that final fight.
And the implication was, if he'd had more time to fully sync with Jonathan's body, it might have kept increasing.
Which suggests the power isn't static. It's tied to his condition, his mastery over his borrowed body. It needs practice or acclimatization.
We also see him use it multiple times against Jotaro. Bang, bang, bang. Suggests maybe a stamina cost or a short cooldown. It's not infinite spamming?
Exactly. Video games often give it a meter or cooldown, which feels right. It's clearly taxing, even if the manga doesn't put a hard number on the recovery time. It's a powerful burst, not a continuous state.
And, as noted, only Dio and other time stoppers are conscious. Everyone else is just paused.
Frozen like statues. Completely unaware.
Okay, the million-dollar question then, head-to-head. Esdeath versus Dio. How do these time stops interact?
It all hinges on Mahapadma, doesn't it? Which interpretation is right?
Pretty much. Let's take scenario 1. Mahapadma is a true time stop, just like Esdeath says.
Okay, so based on Dio versus Jotaro, it seems plausible they could both potentially proceed and move within the other's stop time.
Right, it becomes a battle inside stop time. Who reacts faster? Whose stop lasts longer? Who runs out of juice first?
Dio has the proven experience here. He's fought Jotaro under these exact conditions. We know he can think and act tactically in stop time. We don't know if Esdeath can react to someone else's time stop. That's a big unknown for her.
That's a really good point. Dio has the tactical edge in that specific scenario.
Okay, scenario 2. Mahapadma is that super localized kinetic freeze. Not really stopping time.
So if Dio hits Zia Warudo first, Esdeath just freezes, along with her ice.
Seems likely. She'd be caught like everyone else. Dio gets his 9 seconds, maybe more, to do whatever he wants. That's probably lethal for her.
Ouch. But what if Esdeath triggers Mahapadma first?
Then it depends. Can Dio, as a vampire with the world, resist being frozen solid at near absolute zero? Or does the sheer cold somehow override even his ability to move and stop time? We know stands can be affected by environmental effects sometimes.
That's tricky. And could Dio potentially just move outside Mahapadma's radius if Akame could jump out, if he realizes what's happening and it is localized?
That's another possibility. If it has a limited range and he's fast enough or anticipates it, he might just step outside the bubble.
So, mutual movement. Plausible if Mahapadma is a true time stop following JoJo rules. Pretty unlikely if it's just fancy freezing. The whole fight could turn on who pulls the trigger first and what Mahapadma actually is.
Exactly. That ambiguity around Mahapadma is the core issue. We have an Esdeath statement versus what we see happen with Akame. Comparing powers across different fictional universes is always tough because of these inconsistencies or unanswered questions.
Definitely. And we shouldn't forget they have other tools besides time stop.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Esdeath, like we said, amazing fighter even without powers. Uses a rapier with incredible skill, not just soldier skill, like master level.
And the sheer scale of her ice power. She can create that massive ice storm that covers a whole country. Sacrifices her ice cavalry to do it, sure, but still.
And speaking of, she can just make an army of ice cavalry. That's a serious force multiplier.
You can't ignore that ice manipulation. Even if the time stop gets countered somehow, she can reshape the entire battlefield, create soldiers, launch massive attacks. It's a huge threat on its own.
And Dio, vampire stuff.
Yeah.
Super strength, speed, the regeneration.
Yep, hard to put down.
Plus his own freezing technique, the evaporative freezing. And those creepy Space Ripper stingy eyes.
Yes, yeah. Pressurized eye lasers, basically. Gross but effective.
And his stand, the world, isn't just for stopping time. It hits incredibly hard and fast in close combat.
It's a top-tier, close-range power stand. Fast, precise, devastating. Plus, Dio himself is just smart, ruthless, tactical, always looking for an opening.
So putting it all together, if they can both move and stop time, maybe Dio's edge comes from using shorter bursts more often, combined with the world's punching power.
Could be. Esdeath's seems like a once-a-day nuke. Dio's is more like a reloadable precision weapon.
Yeah.
Tactically, that offers flexibility.
But if Dio stops time and she can't move, it feels like curtains for Esdeath. 9 seconds is a long time for Dio.
A very long time.
Conversely, if Esdeath freezes time-space and Dio is caught, could her ice powers finish him off? How resistant is a vampire stand user to that kind of absolute freeze?
That's the million-dollar question on that side.
Yeah.
We don't really have a clear answer from the source material on how Dio or the world would handle that specific type of stasis, assuming it bypasses his time-stop movement.
Okay, so key takeaways from this deep dive. This whole Esdeath versus Dio thing really highlights how varied time manipulation can be in fiction. It's not all the same power.
Not at all. Whether it's presented as truly stopping the clock or, simulating it with extreme cold or physics manipulation,
Yeah.
it drastically changes how it would interact with other powers.
And the fuzziness around Mahapadma's exact mechanics means we can't really call a definitive winner. But just exploring the possibilities based on what we do know about them and their worlds, it's a really fun thought experiment.
It absolutely is. It shows how much the specific, sometimes subtle details of how a superpower works actually matter when you start comparing them. It's all in the mechanics.
Right. So here's something to chew on, maybe a final thought for you listening. Given these different ways time stop might work, true stop versus kinetic freeze, what other time powers from other stories might interact unexpectedly? Like, could a kinetic freeze bypass defenses that a true time stop couldn't, maybe? Or vice versa?
Yeah, thinking about how, say, slowing molecular motion might interact differently with force fields or regeneration compared to just pausing causality, it opens up a whole can of worms about superpower physics.
Exactly. This duel really makes you think about the nuts and bolts underneath these incredible abilities. Fascinating stuff.